Hello, welcome to this week's edition of Monday Messages. Hope you had a good weekend, a Valentine's weekend. Happy for some, devastating for others. So I kind of fall in the category of, it's Valentine's Day. Back in the day, I used to be like devastated at Valentine's Day because it reminded me that everybody had somebody but me. And now that I have a significant other, my husband, it's like, I got to go out and get candy and a card. But it's good. It's good to get to celebrate love. So I can't complain. I watched this movie. Actually, it was a mini series this week. On Netflix, I kind of allow myself to binge watch in the mornings to kind of separate the days. So on the weekends, I pick like a show on Netflix that I want to binge on. And this week I picked a documentary on the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. And what I thought I was getting was a documentary on like the haunted hotel, because I like the scary stuff. Like, ooh, what's going on there, And it turned out to be anything but. In fact, it was like a tiny little portion they talked about, but it really went into the Elisa Lam disappearance. And it turned out to be a whole big documentary on mental health and all the different facets of mental health, not just of the big obvious one, Elisa, but of everything that happened surrounding that. And they really did a good job of kind of walking you through the timeline and the process, which was fascinating to see. So basically, this girl, Elisa Lam, she was a 21-year-old college student who she loved to blog on Tumblr, and she wanted to get out and explore the world. So she decided she wanted to make a trip to Los Angeles. However, she landed when, her little trip advisor put her right smack dab in the middle of downtown LA. Now, anybody who lives in LA knows the last place you want to stay is downtown LA, because it's not safe. It's just seriously not safe, because it became like the dumping ground on Skid Row for all the mentally ill people and those suffering from addictions. And they just tossed them out on the street, gave them tents, and kind of forgot about them out there. And crime is rampant. But, to the unsuspecting tourists, they're like, yeah, sure, I'm going to go and stay in this wonderful hotel in the middle of downtown Los Angeles, with this great rate. And, it's got me second guessing my booking.coms when I do it. But she ended up found herself at the Cecil Hotel, which is right in the heart of Skid Row and not the best neighborhood. Now, so she's running around LA, and then suddenly she disappears. She just falls off the radar. You don't hear her, see her, or anything, and nobody knows what happened to her. And they show like this wacky elevator footage of her like going in the elevator, and she's doing all kinds of weird things in the elevator, and she's doing all kinds of weird things outside the elevator. And you're kind of thinking, it's like, is this girl on something? What's going on with her? And then the paranormal aspect comes in. It's like, ooh, maybe she's possessed. Maybe something's going on there. And so your brain is just trying to make sense of what's happening with this girl. So as you come to find out more facts about what's happening is the internet took hold of the story. They were like, oh, there's a cover up. Things, why is this happening here? They would pick up little things and just run with it. And they interviewed the conspiracy theorists as well, who were like, oh, the police had something to do with this, or this had something to do with this, or, they found this really kind of sick, I would say sick. But he claimed to be an artist, but he was his name was Morbid, and he was staying at a hotel a year before Elisa Lam disappeared, but somehow he got tied to her death because he sang songs about serial killing. And that was not the best choice for thing, but that was his art. Anyway, he got beat up really bad by the internet. And the hotel staff and everybody was thinking there's a big cover-up. And the police did a search dog, search and everything to find Elisa, and they couldn't find her. And it went on for a little bit. And finally, these people were staying at the hotel and they noticed the water pressure was really, really bad and the water was discolored. The poor little maintenance man goes up to check the water tank to see what's going on. He looks in and there's Elisa Lam. And she's laying in, she's floating in the water tank, which, how do you ever drink water after that again if you go through that? So it's devastating. So the mystery gets even bigger, and people are now speculating the maintenance man had something to do with it. This had something, So everybody had something going on with what was happening with Elisa Lam. As you come to find out more and more and more about her, she suffered from bipolar disorder, and they kind of touched on this. And you listen to it, you're like, oh, okay, she suffered from bipolar disorder, and she was on medication. So she was taking her medications, and kind of going around doing the thing. Well, in the autopsy, what was revealed was not that she was on drugs, because I was like, oh, surely they're going to find that she was on some sort of hallucinogenic here. There's just no way that's normal behavior. And it wasn't normal behavior. She was having a psychotic episode because she wasn't taking her meds like she's supposed to. And her brain just like went off the rails. And so basically in her terror that she was going through in that elevator, she was hiding. It looked like she was hiding from somebody. She was hiding from her mind, but she couldn't escape it. And she was trying to run from it. And the only place she could find a run, she made it to the rooftop because she was scared for her life. And the only place she could think to hide was the water tank. And so she jumped in the water tank and died in the middle of a psychotic episode. And as you're hearing this, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's the power of mental illness. And really all the different facets of the mental illness that came, the messages that came out from this were, I know people who suffer from mental illness and clinical depression. And I've seen what happens when they don't take their medicine and how debilitating. I mean, it's scary. And I've worked with girls in recovery who decide they want to try and go it alone without their meds. And I say, no, absolutely not. You take your medicine as prescribed by the doctor, and you don't go cold turkey off some medicine that's supposed to be fixing your mind. You talk to your doctor before you do that. Don't just decide that you have a medical degree and you know what's best and you want to just go off these meds. No, there was a girl in our 12-step group. Her name was Susan. Beautiful, beautiful woman. She was on antidepressants, and her sponsor, meaning well, told her, oh, go off them. You don't need those. Don't, stop taking them. And she listened to this person who really wasn't qualified to give the information because she's not a medical professional or a licensed therapist. And so she went off the meds and she became a walking zombie. I've never seen it. It was horrifying to see what was going on with Susan, how one day she's like just talking like normal and we're having coffee, and then the next day she comes in and she's just literally like a walking zombie, and she comes and sits in and kind of almost catatonic, and you were trying to break through to Susan, like, Susan, start taking your medicine. So she did start taking her medicine again, but by then she was too far gone. They couldn't get her back to where she needed to go, and she ended up not just taking her life, horribly taking her life. I mean, I don't even want to say how she did it, but it was unbelievable, and it was heartbreaking. And so, the beauty of science is that they've come up with so much, and there's so much they're learning on a daily basis about mental health and what happens to the brain, and how to kind of even out the brain and get you on an even playing field. I know people who have resisted taking it, and finally their therapist says, you don't have to, there's stuff we can give you that, it's like minimal that will help you. And, all you have to do is just, try a little bit. If it doesn't work, we'll take you off it. And sure enough, it ends up like, taking away the depression. Mental illness it's real. Depression is real. What these people feel is absolutely real. And it's, people who are like, oh, just stop being so depressed. Oh, just, smile, be happy. It's not that easy for these people. It's like telling the alcoholic, why don't you just stop drinking? It's killing you. Why? Why can't you just stop? Because I can't. I'm an alcoholic. When I put alcohol in my body, I want more. That's how my body reacts. And that's the mental obsession kicks in. And so the same thing happens with the mentally ill. They cannot just flip it off like that. Sometimes they need the added help of antidepressants and mood stabilizers that they've come up with. They've come up with some fascinating stuff that put people. I've watched people who are like really way out there and start taking, the doctors work with them to kind of try to find the right mix. And eventually they get there and they're able to lead a somewhat normal life as long as they stay on their medicine and take their medicine. They're on an even playing field. And then with the doctor, they can decide whether, they want to stay on it or not, or if they need to after a certain time. Who knows? I don't know how it works, but the mentally ill need help and they need understanding. And the sadness of Skid Row. I remember being out there in LA, and lots of guys would go out to Skid Row to try and help those alcoholics out there who found themselves on Skid Row, to help them find a way out. Not everybody did, and many people died on Skid Row, and many people still die on Skid Row because people don't know what to do with them, and it's a scary thing. So my message of hope today, as I bring down this dark path and dark subject, is if you are suffering from depression, or you feel like somebody you love is suffering from depression, don't be afraid to reach out for help. I always say, when you're trapped in the darkness, you got to seek the light, and whatever that light is for you, whether it means calling a hotline and talking to somebody about your mental health, talking to a friend and putting it out there, I'm scared for this. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. And then having them help you find help. You don't have to go through any of this alone. And you are not to be blamed. You're sick, and you need help. Just like anybody who has cancer and goes to the doctor to get help. Same thing with your brain. Your brain needs help and needs some medicine, maybe, depending on what the doctor says. Maybe not. Who knows? But if you're trapped in the dark, seek the light, get help, and know that you're not alone. You don't have to suffer alone. And there's so many people out there going through what you're going through. In fact, I'm going to be talking on my Kelly Appy episode. I'm starting up season 2. We're going to talk about this subject because I find it fascinating. And I really want to bring light to this dark subject that, it's real. If you're suffering from it, get help. Okay. So that's my Monday message this week. If you're enjoying these, go ahead, hit subscribe. Let's keep in touch. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week for Kelly's Monday messages. Bye.